State of Cannabis.
This is the State of Cannabis News Digest, a roundup of this week's key developments in the cannabis industry.
Don't scroll for hours to stay in the know. We've done the work for you. Every Saturday morning, we break down the national cannabis news into one quick 10-minute episode. Easy to follow, hard to miss. Subscribe now and never fall behind.
Our top stories.
Home cannabis grow laws could change in New Jersey as leading governor hopefuls from both parties push for legalization of personal cultivation. Minnesota receives over 3,500 cannabis business license applications, signaling strong momentum as it prepares to launch its legal adult-use marijuana market later this year. Lawmakers in Indiana are advancing a bill to impose strict rules on hemp-derived THC products. Virginia will remain without a legal cannabis retail market as Governor Youngkin blocks a bill supported by the legislature and the public. A new Delaware bill could override strict local zoning laws that have stalled the launch of recreational marijuana stores statewide. The Florida court affirmed a controversial fee hike for medical marijuana operators, reinforcing the state's costly regulatory environment. Pennsylvania lawmakers have passed a bill to improve oversight of medical marijuana doctors and labs following investigative reports of regulatory gaps.
And now here is the deeper look at the key events in the cannabis world this week.
Minnesota is one step closer to launching its adult-use cannabis market. The Office of Cannabis Management says it has received over 3,500 business license applications, including hundreds from social equity applicants. Licenses could be issued later this spring, and lotteries are planned for May and June. New regulations are also under review, and some experts warn the Twin Cities may see an oversupply of dispensaries when the market opens.
In New Jersey, candidates running to be the state's next governor are signaling strong support for legalizing home cannabis cultivation. Although recreational marijuana has been legal since 2022, residents are still not allowed to grow their own plants. Now, a majority of Democratic and Republican contenders say that should change. With cannabis prices among the highest in the country, home grow could offer relief to medical patients and everyday users alike. The outcome of the June 10th primaries may shape the next phase of New Jersey's marijuana laws.
Ohio's 2023 legalization of recreational cannabis led cities to expect substantial tax revenues, but Governor Mike DeWine's new budget proposal would divert that money to statewide programs such as police training and behavioral health services. With more than $390 million in cannabis sales and $30 million in tax revenue already collected, cities argue the state is violating expectations and withholding funds. The outcome of this budget debate could have major implications for Ohio's cannabis industry, municipal planning, and public trust in voter-approved initiatives.
In California, a new bill could give the legal cannabis industry a much-needed break. Assemblymember Matt Haney has introduced AB 564, a proposal that would block a 25% tax increase on cannabis set to take effect in July. Haney says the tax hike could devastate small businesses and drive more people to the illegal market. The bill comes as California's legal marijuana industry faces high taxes, falling sales, and growing competition from other states with more business-friendly policies. The legislation will be considered in April.
This week, Indiana lawmakers advanced two major cannabis-related bills, one targeting advertising, the other regulating hemp products. First, the Senate Homeland Security and Transportation Committee approved an amendment to House Bill 1390 to ban marijuana-related billboard ads statewide. Representative Jim Pressel says cannabis ads from legal states like Michigan confuse Hoosiers and send the wrong message, especially near public areas. Opponents, including advertising companies, argue it's an unfair restriction that doesn't apply to digital or print media and pushes limits on commercial free speech. Meanwhile, Senate Bill 478 would regulate hemp-derived products like Delta-8 THC, with rules on potency, testing, labeling, and licensing. The bill caps edibles at 100 milligrams per serving, beverages at 25 milligrams, and bans smokable hemp. While supporters say it's about consumer safety, critics warn it could allow stronger THC products and create costly testing challenges due to limited in-state lab capacity. Together, these bills reflect Indiana's tough stance on cannabis, rejecting legalization while tightening control over advertising and the fast-growing hemp market.
Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin has vetoed legislation that would have allowed the retail sale of recreational cannabis. The bill, supported by Democrats in polling at over 60% approval statewide, aimed to regulate a market that's already legal for possession and home growing. Critics say the veto protects a thriving illicit market and blocks potential tax revenue and safety controls. The governor also weakened a bill expanding medical cannabis access and rejected cannabis-related criminal justice reforms. A new legislative commission will now revisit cannabis policy for 2026. And now, a word from our partners.
Cannabis testing is serious business, and having the right lab setup is key. Whether you're launching a new facility or upgrading an existing one, Coffee Pot Consulting provides the expertise you need. With over 15 years' experience of owning and operating independent cannabis laboratories, they can connect you with top industry specialists. Get started today at coffeepotconsulting.com.
In Alabama, a bill to regulate hemp-derived drinks and other consumable products failed in the Senate Judiciary Committee after a 4-4 vote. SB 237 would have imposed licensing rules, a 10% excise tax, and restricted sales to those 21 and older. Supporters said it was about protecting children, but critics warned the bill would hurt small businesses and lacked real protections. A similar measure is still pending in the House, so the debate is far from over.
Delaware lawmakers are taking aim at local zoning laws they say are blocking the rollout of the state's legal recreational cannabis market. A new bill introduced by State Senator Trey Paradis would override restrictive county ordinances, reduce required buffer zones around cannabis shops, and ensure that medical dispensaries with conversion licenses can sell recreational products. Supporters say the move is needed to prevent the state's cannabis program from stalling entirely, while some county officials argue it's an overreach into local land use decisions.
It's Saturday morning. You're waking up, and so is the news. In just 10 minutes, get all the big cannabis stories from around the country. Fast, clear, nationwide. Subscribe and start your weekend informed.
In Florida, a state appeals court has upheld a significant increase in medical marijuana license renewal fees. The First District Court of Appeal ruled that the Florida Department of Health acted within its authority when it raised the fee from $60,000 to about $1.3 million. The court said the law clearly requires marijuana businesses to fully fund the state's regulation and oversight. The ruling reinforces Florida's high-cost operating environment for cannabis companies, even as the market expands and prices fall.
Missouri is putting its marijuana tax revenue to work. This week, the state announced a $23.3 million transfer from adult use cannabis sales to support veteran services and addiction treatment programs. Half the money goes to the Missouri Veterans Commission for Healthcare and support for military families. The other half funds a statewide grant program managed by the Department of Health and Senior Services to expand access to addiction recovery, housing, and job placement services. It's a clear example of how cannabis legalization is helping fund public health efforts in the state.
Pennsylvania lawmakers are tightening regulations around the state's medical marijuana program. Following investigative reports that revealed concerns about doctors issuing high numbers of certifications and weak oversight of cannabis testing labs, the State House passed a bipartisan bill giving the Department of Health more authority to regulate the program. The legislation now moves to the state Senate for consideration.
Maryland lawmakers have approved new bills that allow adults to make their own cannabis edibles and concentrates at home, as long as they don't use dangerous solvents like butane. The same legislation lowers the punishment for possessing over 50 pounds of cannabis and offers a path to reduce sentences for people serving time for older marijuana-related offenses. These changes are part of the state's broader effort to modernize cannabis laws and promote fairness in the justice system.
This was the State of Cannabis News Digest, available weekly. You can listen to us on all main podcast platforms. To make sure you don't miss out on the latest updates and in-depth analysis of the cannabis industry, be sure to subscribe. By subscribing, you'll get notifications for each new episode, helping you stay informed and ahead in the ever-evolving cannabis market. Join us next Saturday for more insights. Until then, keep thriving and stay green.